In and out of the Beltway. From large cities to small towns to the rural heartland. From sea to shining sea. This is Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio. Inside the News.
Welcome back to another week of Inside the News. We're glad that you're here, and we're glad on the affiliates. We're very happy for them to carry the program. And I'll tell you what, Ben and Frank and myself, we look forward to this program as we record it each and every week for you. And Ben, I think I speak for you and Frank as well.
Well, you certainly do. We love doing this show. It's been a number of years now, and Happy New Year. We're looking forward to another great year of providing this show on a weekly basis.
And you know something, Frank, we've been able to keep you coherent for 494 of these.
A task in and of itself, particularly here in New York, freezing this time of year. In fact, New York's weather is so bad and has caused so many colds that the Democrats in the city council are thinking of passing a nasal congestion tax.
What? And you're serious?
Of course not.
Oh, okay. All right, guys. This is just unbelievable. And we're going to start with this right out of the gate. Literally within days of us taping this program here, President Joe Biden, well, he came out of his office, let's put it this way, but this is just an outright attack on America, this gas and oil drilling ban. Frank, go.
Yeah. One of the reasons Trump and the Republicans won so handily in this election was the revulsion of most of the population over Biden's energy policies, which was the spark for the horrible inflationary cycle we are now undergoing. Despite that, and despite the clear expressed will of the American people, Joe Biden has attempted to extend the harm his administration has done by putting an gas and oil drilling ban. One of Trump's famous lines that got him elected so well is, "Drill, baby, drill." Well, Joe Biden, in his parting shot leaving office, is to stop that in its tracks. Now, it'll take an act of Congress to overcome some of the aspects of what Joe Biden is trying to do. But the real important factor in understanding all of this is that the American people clearly expressed their opinion. The economic indicators are evident on how much harm it caused the country. And yet, as his parting shot, Joe Biden wants to continue this ruinous policy. We're a family show, so I don't want to say exactly what I want to say, but the fact of the matter is this is a slap in the face of the American people and a slap in the face of economic reality as well.
You know, Ben, it just shows utter contempt for the people of this country, and yet the elitists and, these tree huggers, we'll call them, the people that Ben, take over.
Well, look, there's a real unfortunate, pernicious attempt here by this administration. This is orchestrated. And on its face, you could say, well, what's wrong with these last minute executive orders? Because Trump will just undo them on day one. He's going to sign a slew of executive orders on the afternoon of January 20th. And that's already been stated by the incoming administration. And this will be one of them that they'll add to undo what was just passed. But here's the problem. If you'll recall back 8 years ago, the Democrats were very effective in slowing down the Trump agenda by litigating executive orders that were signed by Donald Trump and getting them into venues that have a disproportionate number of, back then, Obama-appointed judges in those venues. And forcing litigation all the way to the Supreme Court in some cases. That is the game plan that is being enacted right here. That is the reason that whoever is pulling the strings in this White House is telling Joe Biden to sign these orders. So that, this is, here's another thing for you to sign, Mr. President, on your way out the door. And this is absolutely calculated. It is orchestrated. And it is designed to set the stage for litigation, which will come, within days, if not weeks, of January 20th and the signing of these orders. And of course, as I said, the key here is the Democrats have gotten very good at getting these into the right venue, into the right circuits, where now you've had the one thing Biden had a lot of success at, unfortunately, and that Mitch McConnell was not able to slow down or derail. And the one thing that Schumer did well for Biden was appointing federal judges. So there are a lot of Biden appointees now on the bench, and they're about to hear cases against Trump executive orders. And you can kind of guess which way they're going to rule on a lot of these cases. So they're going to tie up Trump every way they can, and they're going to force a lot of this all the way to the Supreme Court.
And this kind of ties in with the next one here, Frank, because it's like the regs and all the executive orders, these that Biden has done, and even what Barack Obama did, will take years to undo, and it will affect this country for years yet to come. And just because it just happened now, inflation. It's going to take a while for us to get out of this hole, and the taxes and all of these issues, Frank. You just can't say, okay, I'm going to I'm going to sign something, and the people will not feel any result of that for maybe a year and a half or 2 years.
Well, let's look at some of the decisions by presidents that have affected generations afterwards. Jimmy Carter's surrender of the Panama Canal for no logical reason has become a major crisis in 2025. So we are looking at effects of the Biden administration, which will harm us for decades to come. The problem is there will not be a clean break in terms of a new president taking over, changing the country overnight. Because of the problems that Ben outlined as well, the fact is the mistakes of the Carter administrations, which continue to affect us to this day, where we're looking at Biden mistakes, which are going to affect the economy of the United States and the national security of the United States for decades to come. And unfortunately, the misuse of the courts to pursue political goals and political ideas which have been rejected by the American people will continue to plague this country.
And the utter contempt for this country, Ben, can be seen by what we just witnessed on these medals given away to different people. And one being two of them, Hillary Clinton and George Soros. These are the two that when you saw this on its face, you go, what the? And then you can complete that sentence in your own verbiage if you want. But at the same time, it's like, not these two people, because those are the ones that were absolutely the worst for this country, Ben.
Well, yeah, it's extending the middle finger yet again by this administration towards average Americans. Look, I put that in the same category as watching, and I don't watch any of these shows, the Tony Awards or the Golden Globes. It's the elites slapping themselves in the back and praising each other, how great they are, how woke they are. It doesn't really affect the country. So that does not fall into the category Frank was just talking about of being an event that's going to have long-term ramification. It's despicable to watch, but it doesn't really affect America. On the other hand, these executive orders, and even worse, the regulatory environment that has been created by this administration over the last 4 years, it's not easy to undo that. It takes a long time. Industry has spent 4 years adjusting its investment patterns and what it's building and what it's not building and what it's closing in response to all the regulatory environment that has been at war against fossil energy production, at war against any business practice that it views as not being woke enough, which is basically most business practices, frankly. So you've had a whole war against business and capitalism and energy going on for 4 years. That's going to change, but it takes a long time. The deep state will fight all of this. You're going to have the right-thinking people running these agencies now, but it's going to take a long time, and the impact is huge. We can talk about the strategic impact of in Europe, where we have talked for years on this program of long before the invasion of Ukraine, of European reliance upon Russian gas supplies. All right. How do you undo that? How do you rip that Band-Aid off? Well, the most important thing is to give them an alternative source of gas. The U.S. has always been that alternative source The building of liquid natural gas facilities, ports, and the building of big LNG carriers that can carry huge amounts of liquid natural gas across the Atlantic and into European ports has always been the answer. Trump was all about that and supported it, but that's all been largely undone by this administration. So the impacts are huge. And to Frank's point, they last for years, if not decades into the future, the ripple effects of these damaging policies.
We've talked about this before, but this is a phrase that we heard in 2007 and 2008, fundamentally change America. Barack Obama ran on that, and people thought, oh, this is going to be a great thing. We're going to be a happy society, and he's going to make it all good, and it's warm and fuzzy. But, Frank, he has been able to do it. He was able to do it now in Biden, which is basically people say is Obama's third term. And so they're doing it then. And then even with just a couple of weeks left with Biden, they're sticking it again because we're going to fundamentally change America. And they're hoping that this will be able to carry through another 4 years, Frank.
Yeah, one of the ways we have been fundamentally altered is rejecting constitutional order, where the elected officials, elected by the will of the people, make the policy. We have instead given our policy-making power over to unelected bureaucrats, mostly appointed by left-wing Democrats, and also the courts. You might recall in the first Trump administration, the president, clearly acting within the prerogative of the chief executive, engaged in certain measures concerning illegal immigration or immigration into the United States. And presidential policy was then debated in the courts, predominantly in the Ninth Circuit on the West Coast. And presidential policy was being set by judges, so that one single judge on the West Coast of the United States can overturn a decision rightfully decided, whether you agree with it or not, by the President of the United States. The entire thrust of the left has been to take power away from the hands of the voters and put it into unelected officials, whether they be bureaucrats or perhaps even appointed judges.
And you look at Bill Ayers, we've talked about this before, and Barack Obama's training underneath that. And I still contend, as I have all along, that Barack Obama is not and was not a citizen of the United States. I believe that birth certificate was altered. That's my own personal view. I'm not speaking for Frank or for Ben. But when he said fundamentally change America, I believe that this was outside influences, and Bill Ayers was one of those that influenced that young man.
Well, that's a big rabbit hole you're going into. But look, certainly Barack Obama is a citizen of the United States and has been for a long time. Your contention is that he wasn't born in the U.S. and therefore was not eligible to serve. All I'm going to say about that has always struck me is the birth certificate presented. We're going on the Wayback Machine here, but the birth certificate presented in 2008 to prove that he was born in Hawaii was a modern birth certificate legitimately issued by the state of Hawaii, but it was not one from 1961, the year of his birth. It was a modern laser printed birth certificate that someone in Hawaii had recently printed out, showing that he was born. Now, Hawaii is the most democratic state in this country. So to get somebody in Hawaii to agree to print out that birth certificate on using official state apparatus, I think was about as difficult as flipping a light switch. So I'll just make that point. It doesn't prove it one way or the other, but that's a point that a lot of people kind of gloss over when they point to the birth certificate. It was not a 1961 birth certificate.
All right. Frank, you're nodding your head. Did you want to weigh in on that comment?
Well, I think that issue is become somewhat moot since he has 2 terms as president and is now gone. So I don't think that really matters that much. I will say this, though, that it's clear that there was an attempt by the media to totally ignore the situation and cast anyone who had doubts about his citizenship as some kind of lunatic, which the media is very good at doing.
And that was just as easy as it was ballot stuffing back in 2020. I mean, the Democrats are so good at this, and they've got the media in their court, Ben, that, okay, we're going to ballot stuff because I contend the election was stolen too. I guess I'm in the minority, or I'm in this group. Let's put it that way, Ben.
Well, look, this is a case of just basic statistics. If you look at the Democratic votes for Obama, highly motivated to go out and vote, and then for his reelection, about steady, and then for Hillary Clinton, up a touch, about steady, and then all of a sudden in 2020, about 20 million, 18 to 20 million found Democratic votes because they're motivated to vote against Trump. But apparently, those 18 to 20 were no longer motivated to vote against Trump in this past election, because those votes went away when you had a more normal election. Obviously, the mass mailing of ballots in 2020 was used to create what was an illegitimate election outcome, and the country has paid the price for it.
All right, we've got a huge segment coming up. Justin Trudeau, Canada, out. He's going to be out here pretty soon. China cutting cables in Taiwan, and we're not talking about Spectrum or any of those kind of cable companies. We'll talk about that as well. Russia upgrading the ICBMs. Oh my! I mean, this is just the start, and this is just one segment coming up. Stay with us. This is Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio with our guys, Frank Vernuccio and Ben Brunson. My name is Guy Wehman. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.